So, I don't know if everyone, I think I know absolutely everyone in this room, which is kind of nice. I'm not very good at presenting, so we're going to go this the first time. Most of you might recognize that picture from Dr. Strangelove, which is kind of where I got the title. Let's see if this works. Nope. It's not going forward. Nope, definitely not me. That's me. There we go. In introduction, I put a QR code in the presentation this time around so that everyone could QR code me if you want to. Just figured that would make more sense. So an introduction. Now I would click again to go to the next bit, which is who I am. My name is Jason Greenwood. I own Divine Distillers until 7 a.m. this morning. My wife was with us at this conference. Her name is Janelle Ives. About 4 years ago, we started Divine Distillers and then if we click again, we go to, what have we done? We started 4 years ago with a tiny investment. We put in $36,000 into a business. We thought it would just be a thing that we would do for fun, and nope, go back, there we go. And since then, Divine Distillers has won 27 international awards. We've won awards across the spectrum on distilled spirits, and we have expanded to now 6 companies. And I'll talk a little bit about this. We've started off with just distilled spirits, and now we do everything that a human being drinks, which is kind of cool. Now we go to the next slide. Our original tagline is the essence of Oregon, and I'm going to go through the Divine Distillers model of where we made money, where we thought we were going to make money, and where we're actually growing. So we click. The first one is tradition and innovation, and that was something that was near and dear to my heart, which is, I guess I'm not going to need this since I can't click through. Everything was made from scratch. We wanted to do everything from the Willamette Valley. We live in the Willamette Valley. It's very agricultural center, and we had grown up all over the world. I've lived in 20 different countries. I've lived all over Latin America, all over Europe, and we wanted to have some of the traditions of the distillers of the world, and we wanted to bring farm to table and farm to glass spirits. So that was our original thought. We wanted to combine all those old traditions and do them in a new way. We had technology. My wife and I have a science background. I have an economics and political background, and we just have an ability to take the traditions and do them in new ways. So we would click again. The other thing that we want to do is we wanted to highlight the community essence. So in Oregon, I think you are all familiar, Oregon is very, very well known for its beer. It's very well known for its fruit and for its wine, for its cheeses and everything that is produced in the farms. Kind of like California, we're very farm oriented. And then click again. But then came the part that we're going to talk about the most in this conversation, which is problems become products. So we've taken a whole lot of problems that have hit us in the 4 years that we've been in existence, and we've turned them into products. We've turned them. We have seen problems that exist in our local communities, like whey is a huge resource hog. People, dairy farmers, when they produce cheese, they have this whey left over. They have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get rid of the whey because it's toxic. We've turned whey into vodka. The pumice that wineries produce, that's after they've squeezed all the grapes and they're left over with all the grapes, we've turned that into grappa. The fruit leftovers that farms don't want to deal with because they can't sell it at farmers markets because it's not as pretty. They're the seconds, the thirds, even the fourths of the fruit. We turn that into brandy. And we click again. So Again, we are handcrafted, hyper-local. That means we source absolutely everything except for our agave, our tequila is sourced from Mexico. But everything else is sourced within 27 miles of our business, which is pretty impressive when you consider that in the last year we have produced over 60,000 gallons of product, sourcing probably about 140,000 gallons of fermented product. So that is all within 27 miles of where we exist. And we click again. This is an example of agriculture in Oregon. So 97% of farms are family owned, so we're helping the community. The Willamette Valley, which is, now I need this thing because I need the laser. We are right in this small little area of the Willamette Valley, so we are right in the center of everything. The Willamette Valley is the most productive valley in Oregon. All right, and we click again. So this gives us an example, and I'll get to the challenges in just a second, but I'm going to go through what we do. We do a full life cycle of the production, so we're very innovative in what we do. Most people do the apple to brandy, but then they don't take the pumice, the apple pumice, and feed it to a cow. We have relationships because we have relationships with the cow farms, because we have relationships with the pig farms in the area. We take all our waste product and it feeds an animal. From that cow then turns around and makes cheese, and then the leftovers of the cheese is turned into whey, which we then turn into vodka. So you can't get, it's much more than just a simple life cycle. We are using and reusing other people's wastes and turning it into products. So that's the very first problem that we've turned into a product. We do this for several other products. So we click again. So now I'm going to talk about our other problems that we've had. So like I said, in 2018, we opened up in 400 square feet. You'll see this is a really tiny little space, and we had a whole lot of space in that little tiny space. And we click again. This is that space at the end of 2018. Same exact space. We were absolutely overrun in that space. We had no more space. We were putting stuff up in the rafters. We had pulleys to take stuff up and down because we were trying to use every last vertical inch. So we moved to a larger space. Click. Now we have a 2,000 square foot space. We have a whole lot of space again. And then by early 2020, we have this space over here. Click. So that space was taken up entirely by fermenters. Part of this is what I'm going to talk about with what happened with COVID. So just so that you're aware, COVID helped us grow. Not necessarily something we wanted to do, but COVID definitely helped us grow. And we click again. 2020 had, nope, too far. Back one. There we go. 2020 had its own challenges. We know, no. Hey, now it's working. Hold on, go back. Go back, please. I think I'm actually clicking through. All right, so 2020 had this. I think you all know what that is. COVID came and did a wonderful thing for us. It made us the only distillery in Oregon, or one of the very few distilleries in Oregon who can actually produce sanitizer. A lot of distilleries in Oregon did not know how to produce sanitizer, so we were the very first. We started producing sanitizer. When we did produce sanitizer, it was illegal for us to produce sanitizer. The federal government did not let consumers produce sanitizer. They did change the law later, but when we were doing it, we were breaking the law, and we said, come after us, we don't care. We wanted to help people, so we started doing sanitizer. The other thing that led to is an incredible demand for our sanitizer. Just so that everyone here is aware, we did not charge for our sanitizer. We gave away 300,000 gallons worth of sanitizer. We had relationships with wineries throughout the state that were, thanks. Thank you. We had relationships, this is where I get emotional, with over 100 wineries in the state. We had relationships with breweries. We had relationships with cider houses. They would all bring us. We had trucking companies that were going down to Southern Oregon to pick up wine, to bring it back so that we could turn it into sanitizer. We had a towing company that had PPP money that didn't have anything to do because there were no cars on the road, that was just volunteering to go to Eastern Oregon to pick up beer and bring it to us so that we could distill it. So we had this network of businesses that had nothing because of COVID. We had nothing because of COVID, and all of a sudden we had a reason. We had a reason to exist, and we were the only ones that were able to do it. So we started producing sanitizer. Over here, you'll see, this is one of our trucks that I bought a truck specifically for this. So it's a 20-foot box truck, and it will contain up to 3,000 gallons of liquid, and we were going out and getting 3,000 gallons of liquid almost every single day to different parts of Oregon, pumping them through and then putting them through our stills. One of the things that we learned through all of this was that all the fermenters in Oregon were not producing enough fermented liquid to feed the sanitizer need in the state. So we're not producing anything that we drink anymore. All this stuff that we wanted to do was just gone. We were just producing sanitizer. But what we learned is that we learned how to do continuous distillation. So we were running through our stills. Our stills were running 24 hours a day. Most of the time, you only see continuous distillation in very, very large distilleries. Jack Daniel's has continuous distillation. We were and are still the smallest continuous distillation in operation in the country. But not only that, we learned how to do continuous fermentation, and we are one of the very few people in the world that do continuous fermentation. These were things that were not available, that didn't exist. Someone had done a paper back in the 70s about how to do continuous fermentation, and we learned how to do it from that paper, and we were producing enough to start feeding our need for sanitizer. So we're not doing anything that we want to drink yet, but we were helping the people. Let's see, now I can do that. Then come our next challenges, which are the supply chain woes. And everyone's familiar with what's going on here. We're all very familiar about what's going on. We realized that we were one of the few people who didn't have to deal with this because we were getting everything local. The only thing that we weren't getting local were our bottles. So we started going out, we went to China, this is back in 2019, we went to China and we ordered a shipping container's worth of bottles. We luckily haven't had to go over that shipping container's worth of bottles, and we're able to keep ahead of that. But we're one of the few people who actually hasn't had a disruption in their supply chain. The only thing that we don't get local, aside from our agave, is our bottles. But what the supply chain has taught us is that everything has to be local. We can't be going out to Russia. We can't be going out to the Ukraine for our raw ingredients. We know that. We've had so many problems with getting things from eastern U.S. to here because we had a trucker crisis. We had the trains. So we have learned that we need to get things local. The other challenges that we see coming up, we're trying to tackle already. One of them, from climate change, we're trying to capture the carbon footprint that we create. So we're creating an algae farm so that all the CO2 that is produced from our fermentation goes through the algae farm that produces algae. That algae can then be eaten by cows that produce less methane when they eat the algae. So we're at the forefront of that. We're trying to recoup all the waste that we have. Currently, our waste is the water that we use to cool down our stills and the CO2. That's it. We're looking at doing a cyclic system so that we can cool everything down using a cooling system. That way that water won't go down, and we're looking at capturing our carbon dioxide excess. So both of those things. The other thing that happens, and that goes to us and who we are as a company. If any of you remember the wildfires that we had in California, in Oregon a year and a half ago. California has them every year, so I can't go about California, but Oregon a year and a half had really, really bad wildfires, and all the wineries had horrible smoke taint to their wine. They were going to dump hundreds of thousands of gallons. We took 130,000 gallons from different wineries throughout the state of Oregon and turned it into brandy, which gives us a wonderful smoke-tainted brandy. So now that smoke taint, it comes off really well in a brandy, whereas it doesn't come off very well in a wine. So we've made more partnerships with other wineries that now don't have to throw away hundreds of thousands of gallons of wine. They now have a resource for where they can go when that doesn't work. Because we have that, we've also made relationships with breweries that when they make a batch that doesn't work, we'll take it and we'll turn it into whiskey. So we've done that with multiple different wine producers. That leads us to the fact that we're now expanding. We've now gone into at the very beginning of this presentation, you saw we were in 469 square feet. In January of this year, we moved into a 15,000 square foot location. We've got about an acre's worth of land, and we have since purchased the Mount Angel Soda Company, the Mount Angel Brewing Company, 1859 Cider, and started Divine Wines. All of these things are companies that were going under. Well, not Divine Wines, we're just starting it. But the other three are companies that were going under that we helped rescue because we want to help a business that is local. They were going to go completely under. We offered them a space to continue doing what they were doing. After a few months, this happened to each of those. After a few months, they said, "No, you guys have the right vision. We want out. If you want to continue our brand, you can continue our brand." So for each of those, we basically picked them up and are continuing brands that have been around for a long time. But now we have a nice large space where we can do all of that. This also allows us to do something we call vertical diversification. We have all the supply chain problems. Then we go into the fact that, I like this picture. It's just really kind of cool that supply chain optimization is not that easy. It's really, really not. We're trying to do way too much, but it's worth it. You guys remember this picture. So now one of the things and people always ask me, well, why are you doing all this? Well, we started off with this picture. This was the dream of what we really wanted to do, but we realized wine, cider, soda, and beer fit inside this section. So right now, we make all of these products, wine, soda, beer, cider, all of those products are made before we make our distilled spirit. So instead of having our distillery make these products, we now have each individual one of those companies make the product and sell the finished product to the distillery. They don't sell the entire finished product, they sell a portion of it. We turn that around and turn it into a product. So first we make a soda. The soda then, first we make a cider. This one's the easy one. We make a cider. The cider gets sold to the distillery. So we make 1,000 gallons of cider. We take 200 gallons of cider, sell it as cider, and take the other 800 gallons and turn it into distilled spirits. And now we have 2 different product lines without any extra work from us. So we're now making the interim product and selling the interim product on the way. It allows us to capitalize on a larger spectrum. That's a lot easier to get interim product into grocery stores than it is to get final product into grocery stores. We get a foothold with the interim product, and we can get in with the final product. One of the reasons why we wanted to do distilled spirits was because of the extremely long shelf life. Once you make a distilled spirit, it is a distilled spirit. It will stay in a bottle. It will never go old. You have that. That was one of the things that we loved about distilled spirits. But now we have an interim product that we can also sell that is also of value. So if we look here, we started off with just making spirits and bitters. That's what we have here. Then we realized that what we really wanted to do was make canned cocktails. If anyone wants to try the Devil's Ass, we have some right there on the table, and I'm happy to share. So the Devil's Ass is a Moscow Mule-like product. And so we started off with our spirits and bitters. We went to canned cocktails, and then we realized that we could make flavors and sodas from what we were already creating. So we started doing those, and then we started doing wines and ciders. And if you see here, we've got those two together. So now we've got all of these products that we're selling. We had a tasting room, and we're now turning that into a bar, a full-on bar. And that leads me to my friend here, who has his own farm of shipping containers, and now I have this space in this new location. And one of the things that we want to do is produce our own microgreens and our own food for the bar, for the restaurant. We have always been producing our own herbs and spices for our drinks, but now we want to be able to produce everything from start to finish. We have relationships with the local farmers so that we can get beef for our restaurant. We have relationship with the local pig farmers so that we can get pork for our restaurants, and we have relationships with the wineries, the cideries, and the breweries in the area so we can get everything coming into our location and be local and be able to produce more for the local environment. We can produce in our bar and restaurant something that has no sources that are outside the Willamette Valley, which I think is a lot of it's very special. It gets a lot of the challenges out. So we're trying to get as much as we can sourced as close as we can. And there I have now 2 QR codes. Well, one on the bottom goes to me. The one on the top goes to my business if you want to QR code them. And if you have any questions, I've got about 7 minutes left, and that went faster than I thought. Yes, sir.
First off, I just want to say that the level of innovation and ability to do continuous distilling and pivot that quickly as a food scientist is incredible. So I just want to recognize that is really, really amazing that you guys were able to do that. My question is kind of two-part. One is, how did you guys come up with the idea for turning whey into vodka? I've never heard of that. And then have you guys looked at trying to either put trade secrets or patents on that process to help keep that advantage?
So we are the first distillery in the world to do so. There are a couple of distilleries that have done it for milk, but we are the first distillery to do whey into vodka. We weren't the ones who came up with the idea. We were the ones who were crazy enough to follow through with the idea. TMK Creamery, a creamery in Canby, was looking for a way of dealing with their whey. Way too many ways. But they were looking for a way to get rid of their whey. Most large dairies turn it into whey protein and then sell it on the market as a dry protein. It's cost ineffective for a small farm. They were also looking to do something innovative. So they reached out to us and said, would you be willing to do this? We spent a few weeks, we looked at it, we found out how much lactose is actually in whey at the end of the cheese processing. It's about 2% sugar. So it's very, very low, but the cows produce a lot of whey. So it's we're producing a whole lot and then, for very little. And if you think about beer being 4% and the beer that's produced to make whiskey being about 6 or 7%, you really realize how bad the numbers work. But when you're considering that whey is free, and to us, that works really well. When you consider the fact that they're having to pay to get rid of their whey, and now they don't have to pay to get rid of the whey because they were turning it into a product. So they're saving money, and then we're doing that. So between TMK Creamery, us, we found a professor at Oregon State University who was interested in doing this. He's a distillation professor. So between the three of us, we got a hold and talked to the FDA, to the USDA, and the USDA helped us develop a yeast that would eat lactose. So we found a yeast that would eat lactose. There is exactly one yeast strain in the world that eats lactose. And if you feed it anything other than lactose, it stops eating lactose. So you have to be very, very particular about how you grow it. You have to be very particular about how you use it. So we started off with doing it that way. The USDA gave us it's a little vial about that size of the yeast that they developed. And then we grew it and grew it up so that we could start doing this. Since then, we have actually developed an enzyme to break the lactose down into sucrose, which is so much easier to ferment. Anything can ferment it. It makes our lives much easier. The enzyme costs about a third what the yeast cost, so we are now doing it the really, really easy way. We started off doing it the really, really hard way. We're now doing it, we can have a 1,000-gallon batch of whey, throw in the enzyme, it's done its work within 24 hours, and then we can ferment it with a regular cheap yeast. Or it doesn't work for whey just simply because of where we're doing it, but a lot of times that kind of stuff will just ferment naturally. But at 2%, we want to be very careful. That's a segue. I do a lot of natural fermentation for almost all our products, so we're not buying yeast throughout almost anything. The only products that we don't do natural yeast for are strawberries, because natural yeast on strawberries tastes disgusting, and for the whey. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay, I'll just go quick. There are actually several vodkas from New Zealand that are made from whey. It's not.
Is it from whey or for cheese?
What's that?
From whey or from milk?
From whey.
Okay.
Yeah. Two come to mind: a brand called Broken Shed Vodka and a brand called VDK 6100, both from New Zealand. That, for some reason, New Zealand vodka producers use whey quite a bit.
They were the very first to do milk, so that doesn't surprise me. But
Yeah.
when I had looked up, they had not done.
Right. But that's actually my question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My question is, do you?
Thank you.
Yeah, do you sell your products? Forgive me, because I'm also in the business. You'll hear in a few minutes when I speak. It's good timing, by the way. Do you sell all your products at your distillery? Do you have any other route to market, or is everything sold right there?
So we started off selling our products just in our distillery. We had just started going into California and New York in March of 2020. You can figure out how well that worked. So we're now just starting to sell our products again. No, we have not. We're selling them just in the distillery, just from our tasting room. We have now 2 tasting rooms, one in Salem, which is where we started, and one in Independence, which is where this new location is. We have not started online yet, no. So we're very tiny. That answer? Yeah. And thank you for letting me know. I'd like to look them up, because we have a lot to share.
I have 2 questions. One is, kind of curious, your annual sales, I guess going back 12 months, and then what's your forecast for the rest of the year? My second question is, I'm curious about your algae farm to offset your carbon, and do you have any numbers about, what impact that actually does have based on, your electricity usage and so on?
Okay, so to answer the second part, we don't have any numbers yet because we are just starting the algae farm. We hope that algae farm is up and running by the end of this year. We didn't have the space for it in our old location. It's just part of coming into the new location when we start fermenting, so that's going to be coming up. We'll be running the algae farm. We are in talks with a group from Australia who started doing this, so that we can get better, so we don't start from zero. So we are going to be starting that I'm hoping for this summer, so I can get you better numbers at the end of the year is what I hope. For our energy, we are looking to put a solar roof on our entire facility, so that's 14,000 square feet of solar, which should, if we've done the numbers right, produce more electricity than we actually consume in a year. And as far as sales, we did $200,000 worth of sales last year in 2021. We were doing $20,000 worth of sales in 2018. So that's the growth that we've had with COVID. We're hoping that now that COVID restrictions are lifting and I can go out and start selling more, that will change and grow exponentially, but we don't know. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Well, thank you very much for listening to me and putting up with me, and it's been great here. Thank you.